Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora is releasing in just over a month, and recently many media folks got some hands-on time with the game. During their previews, they spoke a lot about the gameplay, missions, visuals, and much more. I've essentially compiled a list of everything I could find about this game, so here is my ultimate breakdown of Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. Avatar Theory here, and before I continue, I just need to point out that I did not play the game early, so most footage you see is used from the trailers and the IGN preview, while all other screenshots used for references will be sourced to the original videos, which will be pinned in the comment section below. So what type of game is this really? Well, Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora is a first-person action-adventure game set in the western frontier of Pandora. It borrows a lot of elements from Ubisoft's other first-person shooter franchise, that being Far Cry, as changing weapons, interacting with the environment, and exploration is all done in first-person mode. Even cutscenes are played out from a first-person perspective, which is odd considering their previous entry, Far Cry 6, had cutscenes in third person, making it feel a bit more cinematic. The only time that I could see where the camera changed perspectives was when the player was mounting an Ikran or when they were riding a dire horse, which was seen from trailers, as those who attended preview events was only able to play a section where they obtained their Ikran. The only other time that you could see your character was during the inventory screen, but I'll get to that in a moment. It was an interesting choice to keep the camera in first-person perspective, given that the studio is more experienced in making third-person games, that being Massive Entertainment. The studio is situated in Sweden, that being Massive Entertainment, is mostly known for their work on the Division franchise and their Snowdrop engine, which is the game engine used for Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. The Division, for those unaware, is a third-person action role-playing game. They're also currently working on Star Wars Outlaws, which, as with The Division, is also a third-person action-adventure game. Thus, it is strange that they opted for a first-person game with Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora, but based on the gameplay, it does make the player feel more immersed in the world of Pandora, as this game is canon after all. You see, back in 2009, we got a prequel game titled James Cameron's Avatar: The Game, and although that game tied into the first movie to some extent, and even had Sigourney Weaver reprise her role as Dr. Grace Augustine, it was eventually established to be non-canon to the movie universe. However, Frontiers of Pandora was confirmed to be part of the main story of the Avatar universe. During a 2022 interview with Polygon, Avatar producer John Landau confirmed that Frontiers of Pandora takes place around the opening of the Way of Water, but on a different section of Pandora, the Western Frontier. It currently sits alongside the two movies, telling an original story within the world of Avatar. Landau even mentioned that characters such as General Ardmore from The Way of Water will be mentioned in the game, but don't expect any massive crossovers. But then, when does the game actually take place? The story will essentially begin in the year 2138, when the protagonist is kidnapped by the RDA. The RDA took young Na'vi in an attempt to raise them as humans to use against their own kind in TAP, or the Ambassador Program. Your character was raised and trained by the RDA, but in 2154, during the events of the first Avatar movie and around the time of the Battle of the Hallelujah Mountains, was saved by an avatar who then put your character into cryosleep. Still with me on the timeline? The game will then skip to 2169, which is 15 years later, where the protagonist wakes up during the return of the RDA, where the player will have to reconnect to their Na'vi heritage. As the bulk of the Way of Water took place during 2170, it seems that most of Frontiers of Pandora will be taking place during the beginning part of the movie. Your character is a Na'vi. Yes, you heard that right. You play as a Na'vi, not as an avatar, as this was clear from the fact that 4 fingers could be seen from the trailers, and other Na'vi call you the Sorrentu, which is part of the Sorrentu clan, identifiable from a specific scar on your face. The Sorrentu clan mysteriously disappeared around 2154, and the only known surviving member of this clan is you, the protagonist. Not much else has been revealed about the protagonist or the Sorrentu clan, aside from the fact that they are the only ones who can interact with the Tarsiu plant on Pandora, which essentially acts as your skill tree in the game. Since the protagonist was raised by the RDA, they are then able to wield not only Na'vi weapons such as bows and slings, but human weapons like shotguns, machine guns, and rocket launchers as well. This makes it easy to explain why a Na'vi would use RDA weapons, because being raised by them, you are then able to use those specific weapons. So what about the RDA? John Mercer, Executive Vice President of Frontier Operations in the Western Frontier for the RDA, created a program, as mentioned earlier, TAP, to gain easier access to the valuable resources on Pandora from the Na'vi people without the need for a costly conflict. The program aimed to bring up young Na'vi in the human way of life, so they could act as RDA ambassadors to the different Na'vi groups, while also allowing the Na'vi to benefit from human knowledge. In 2138, the program, known as TAP, kidnapped Na'vi children and raised them as if they were humans. They were sent to a human school where they learned English and how to use human weapons and technology, which was considered forbidden knowledge by the Na'vi. This is also why the protagonist speaks English so easily. As tension between the Na'vi and humans on Pandora grew, the program shifted its focus towards military and covert skills for a more confrontational approach. In 2154, during the Pandoran War, Hell's Gate came under attack. The TAP facility was ordered to evacuate, likely to reinforce Hell's Gate, and the RDA ordered the execution of the Na'vi children. However, their teacher, who was also an avatar driver, saved the children by placing them in cryosleep. At least one of the children woke up 15 years later, by which time the RDA had returned to Pandora, and which is also the opening section of The Way of Water. But before I continue, if you do enjoy this video so far, then do leave a like, as it really helps out the channel. But if you do want to support my content even more, then consider joining and becoming a member of the channel, as there are a lot of benefits, especially when I do live streams, such as custom emotes and badges, or you could consider supporting me on Patreon, but all of this is of course optional. When your character wakes up from cryosleep, you will then essentially have to reconnect with your Na'vi heritage and learn what it means to become a true Na'vi. In some essence, it may follow similar steps than that which Jake Sully had to do. Learn to speak Na'vi, learn their culture, tame your Ikran, connect with the world, and fight the RDA. But there will be many other quests along your journey which will not only give you more insight into the world of Pandora, but potentially provide backstory on some smaller details that may be in the movies. I don't expect that, for example, Neytiri will appear in the game, but it has been said that there will be mention of some characters in the game, like General Ardmore as mentioned earlier. Going through all of the preview footage though, there are some quests and side quests that I could find, and overall these are the quests that was mentioned. Firstly, each quest has a number next to the name, indicating which level is required to complete this quest, or that is at least my guess. More of a recommendation of level requirement for this quest. The first quest is called the Eye of Awa, which requires you to gather mangrove hive nectar to make Nictea for the Kingler Queen ritual. Then later on the quest will change, which then says you have to bring the mangrove hive nectar to a Tua and Nefika at the Glade of Light, which requires you to look for a rock pillar covered in willow trees in the big leaf biome directly west of Home Tree. One of the big quests that was talked about in all of the preview coverage was revolving around your Ikran, titled Take Flight. The first part of that quest requires you to meet Nefika at the entrance to the Ikran Rookery, which is located below the floating mountains south of the Glade of Light. Later on, it requires you to pass the time by the fire until Nefika arrives at the Ikran Rookery. You are then required to climb the Rookery to be chosen by Ikran, follow a Tua to the Ikran Rookery where you meet your Banshee or your Ikran, where you will give it a name, and then you can enjoy your first flight. One of the other quests are titled Those Who Guide Us, which requires you to meet a Tua on Storyteller's Stone, which is one of the floating mountains covered in purple, where you will talk to a Tua on Storyteller's Stone. Some of the more action-packed quests are titled The Unsung Hunter, which tasks you to defeat the RDA at the crash site, where you will also be asked to locate the crash Alaymun mentioned, which states that her patrol of the Silkwoods domain started from the Weaver's Flourish camp, and also she crossed the Threaded River heading southwest, where she saw smoke from a construction site among the Cocoon Hills. The final quest that I saw in all of the previews were titled Pushing Back, which requires the player to shut down drill towers, close external cooling pools, and turn off internal generators. Then you will need to hack the antenna at the top of the Hydro Oil Extractor Alpha outpost, hack and destroy RDA's aerial devices, and thereafter join a Tua on the overlook of the south of Rising Spires, which is northwest of the Hydro Oil Extractor Alpha outpost, outpost, and eventually you'll need to talk to Kanat, the Aranae Oleegtan in Home Tree, where he will likely be found in the council room. There was also another side quest that I saw, which is titled Teachable Moment, which tasks you to craft the design where Neytu can see you work, where you will be required to craft Neytu's chest wrap, and you must use Bruce Moss, and they say that Neytu can be found in Maker's Den. Another side quest that I saw was sabotage RDA's gas extractor outpost, where you will need to close the gas storage pipeline, close the shipping sector pipeline, and then shut down the power plant energy feed. We do briefly see the quest log thanks to Lucky Salamander, where we could see the quests, explorations, offering requests, and completed. Now, completed is self-explanatory, being completed quests. Offering requests, I'm guessing, would be a certain character that has a specific request for you that could be time sensitive. Exploration is likely side quests or quests related to finding new things on the map, while quests is your overall active or accepted quests. The active quest here is the Eye of Awa, and you can also see the level requirement of each quest as previously mentioned, as well as the distance of each quest. The objective is then displayed on the right side, and what seems to be some sort of inner monologue appearing below the quest. In this instance, it states, quote, "I decided to return to Home Tree and tell Atua that A2 is safe. When I arrived, she was concerned about the Kinglor problem and proving once and for all that the RDA are the issue. She asked me to take part in a ritual that gives me the sight of the Kinglor Queen." End quote. This does give us a better understanding of the quest log and how it'll be managed during the game, and it also seems like you could have two quests active at once, as indicated by the gamer. Certain quests or objectives seems to be puzzle based, as seen by this minigame playing out. The player character has this tool which they take out to hack or sabotage certain circuit breakers, and at first one needs to move the bigger circle into a smaller circle, whereafter a minigame appears which is time sensitive. From what I could see, it is basically moving from point A to point B with a timer at the top in this maze-like game where certain areas are cut off, so it will require some tinkering. As it states a security level below these, I can see them becoming more complex as the game progresses, but I do hope that this does not slow down the game too much. It all does happen in real time, so you can still be attacked while you are busy hacking these terminals. As for the character screen, it seems pretty standard, similarly to what we've seen in other Ubisoft games like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, where you have your gear on the left hand side and your weapons on the right hand side. Now at the top there you have the system icon, which obviously goes back to the system where you can exit the game, change your settings, so on. At the bottom you have a 2-minute timer with teeth, which I'm guessing is some sort of buff to your character, probably like extra health or increased speed and so on. On the right hand bottom side you have inspect, which is likely inspecting different gear, and then you have the escape key, which goes back to the game. If you look at the right hand side at the top, you have a 5 there, which I'm guessing is the character level, so you are level 5 in this instance. Then above that is something that will be quite controversial, I'm sure, when the game releases, and that is the store icon. I've not really seen anybody talk about the store icon or show anything of what is in the store, but as I said, with it being a Ubisoft game, I'm expecting different packs for your Ikran, different skins for your character, and possibly even skins for your dire horse, although time will tell on that one. Then if the person pressed a G, it will go to their pouch, which will probably be their ingredients like different plants, fruits, and so on that was gathered throughout the game. Then at the list there at the top you have your map, which shows the overall map of the game. You have your hunter's guide, which I've seen throughout different playthroughs. If new things or new plants, creatures, new RDA vehicles and such like that is discovered, then your hunter's log is, or your hunter's guide is updated, which is probably like a encyclopedia in the game that shows you a little bit more back detail of everything in the game, which I'm really excited to see. Then you have your quest icon, which goes through your quests. You have the character screen, which is the one you see at the moment. You have the skills, which will show your skill tree, and then your journal, which is probably like your journal entry that your character writes as the game goes on, where you can go through the journal just to get a bit more backstory about certain things. Now looking at the left hand side, you have your headgear, chest, you have your wrists, your waist, and then you have your feet, and you can clearly see that this character is not wearing any feet gear or headgear. And on the right hand side you have different weapons. Now at the very bottom you have your sling, and you can see there, if pressed down on the D-pad it'll switch to your sling. Then you have what seems to be your light bow or your regular bow, which if you press left on the D-pad it'll go to your bow. Then if you press right on the D-pad it'll go to your assault rifle, and then if you press up it'll go to your heavy bow. You can also see that it can be swapped out with different weapons. So for example, your heavy bow can be swapped out with a rocket launcher, your assault rifle can be swapped out with probably a shotgun or some sort of other sling, whereas your light bow can be swapped out with a different bow. One important thing that I've also noticed with the character screen is that certain weapons have different color schemes to it. So for example, your heavy bow and your waist and your chest gear has this purple glow to it, whereas the wrist, the assault rifle and the light bow has a green tint to it, indicating to me that there's probably going to be different rarities of gear and weapons in Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. I'm sure there's much more detail in the character screen, but from all of the previews, this is the most information that I could find. With the different gear options, one big question on many people's minds were, can you customize your character? Well, the short answer is yes. You can even customize your own Ikran. Character customization includes choosing body type, voice, body paints, as well as the outfit you wear. These outfits will vary depending on what you choose for your head, waist, arms, and legs, and will of course give you different buffs. Customization on your Ikran is also possible, as you can choose their outfit and even change their appearance as well as skin color. More recently, Ubisoft have updated what the Ultimate Edition will look like, and you can see there a glimpse of the Surrender bundle, which you can clearly see that your Ikran will have a different look, but you will also have a unique outfit for your character as well. Looking at the Resistance bundle, you can see that your character will have more a military style outfit, but more importantly, this bundle will change the skin of your Ikran. The harness of this Ikran does look similar to that of which Recom Courage puts on his Ikran in The Way of Water, and as there is a store attached to this game, I do wonder what other skins and bundles there will be. Frontiers of Pandora will have a skill tree, and from the footage that I have seen, it does seem like skill points are granted upon completion of quests. There is also experience in the game, but I don't know how easy or hard it is to obtain experience in Frontiers of Pandora. As for the skill tree itself, since the protagonist is part of the Sorrento clan, they would have to go to the Tarsiu plant where they can level up and choose their skills. We saw a glimpse of this in one of the trailers, and it seems there will be multiple skill trees based not only on your character but your mounts as well. How I understand the skill system works though is that you will have different branches that has skills within them. So for example, the Survivor branch will have skills that improve your energy, health, making you stronger and giving you more buffs from food sources, while the Hunter branch will include skills like making less noise, effects of weapons lasting longer, and so on. There seems to be around 5 different branches: survival, hunting, one for gathering, and one for crafting, while the 5th one is tied to your Ikran and gives you skills such as doing a barrel roll and so on. Again, not much was shown or spoken about when it came to the skill tree, but from what I've seen, Ubisoft have made it visually creative in terms of how you level up and choose different skills. Crafting will be a big part of the game, as not only will you be able to craft edibles that will boost and buff some of your skills, but you can also craft items and ammo for your weapons as well as certain gear. This was briefly shown in one video, which is currently not available anymore, but there will be a crafting table in Frontiers of Pandora. Certain gear will require crafting items such as hexapede teeth, certain branches, moss, and so on, and as you craft better gear, this will also change the appearance of your character. Weapon mods will also change the amount and type of damage your gear does, while hunting animals a certain way can affect the materials you gather. If you shoot an animal with a weapon, that is an RDA weapon such as a machine gun, then the meat will be spoiled, while hunting the animal with a bow and arrow provides for better crafting materials. You will also say a prayer afterwards, which many have said can be time consuming, so I do hope that it doesn't slow down the game too much. When gathering fruit and plants though, there was a mini game that plays out when the player had to move the analog sticks just in the right direction to get the perfect crafting materials. As many played the preview with the PS5 controller, they stated that the haptic feedback on the controller was quite impressive. As with many other games, it seems that you are limited to carrying 4 weapons at a time. Each one will be assigned to the D-pad in the sense that up, right, left, and down will change the different weapons. It does seem, however, that down switches to your staff sling, left switches to your heavy bow, up switches to your longbow, and right switches to your rifle. These are not the only weapons that you can use, but unfortunately there will be no melee weapons in this game, which I feel is somewhat of a missed opportunity. Weapons can be changed as, for example, your heavy bow can be swapped out for a rocket launcher, while your rifle can be changed for a shotgun. Certain weapons, such as your assault rifle, can be used while being mounted on your Ikran, but again, no melee weapons have been mentioned or shown, so I feel that it is safe to say they won't be in the game. You can trade weapons and gear with the vendor, and it seems that materials will also be tradable. As seen on the image here, you can see that you have your different materials, an arm guard, an ankle guard, and then chest guard mods, which also confirms that weapon mods and gear mods will also be a part in Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. As this build was an early build a couple of months old from what I understand, there was a few textures missing, as you can see that ankle guard simply has a pink square, and you can also see there at the top, currently it is in the items tab, but you can also switch to the designs tab, which I'm currently still unsure of what that is. Maybe different patterns, different colors for gear and weapon, but time will tell on that one. Frontiers of Pandora will introduce a host of new creatures, but we'll also see the return of familiar ones from the movies. Some of the new creatures includes the Coronis, a flying type creature, Yotum, a small but dangerous creature, Scarab Crawlers, which can also be dangerous when provoked, and Kinglor, a moth-like creature which is indigenous to the Na'vi clan, the Ranahe. I've seen some Viper Wolves and Thanators have yellow collars on them, likely being controlled by the RDA in some way, and they will likely attack you on sight, unlike most creatures on Pandora. There will also be some side missions related to creatures where you have to free them by killing the RDA guarding it, where you will be rewarded for freeing them. Some creatures also need to be approached slowly, as they have some sort of tracking device stuck to them, where the player, if approached correctly, can free them from these RDA devices. The Ranahe clan will be one of 3 new clans introduced to Frontiers of Pandora. They are a peaceful clan, a group of weavers situated in the Kinglor forest, and was the only clan shown during this preview event. It was also where we saw the most new characters. One of the other clans is situated in the upper plains, the Zeswa clan, which will teach the player the ways of riding a dire horse, while the Neytiri clan is a group of healers situated in the clouded forest. At the time of making this video, we don't know much else about the Zeswa and Neytiri clan, nor do we know if there will be more than 3 new clans in Frontiers of Pandora. The map itself seems quite large, as the image shown from Eurogamer provides us with a glimpse of the rainforest biome. Looking at the screen, you have at the top left side there system, which as previously mentioned just goes back to the system settings. Then below that you have the quest. In this instance, the Eye of Awa is currently active. Now I've already spoken about the quest, so I'm not going to go over that again, but looking at the bottom left you have Silkwood's rainforest biome, and then if the player pressed C, it will show the different biomes, indicating that there is multiple biomes in this game. Then going to the right hand side, you have hide completed activities, set waypoint, create custom marker, and back, with a waypoint indicator showing northeast, southwest, and dusk and clear sky, indicating that there is of course a day-night system to the game, as well as different weather patterns. Then at the top there, as mentioned in the character breakdown section, you have the store, you have the map, hunter's guide, quests, character, skills, and journal. Now looking at the overall map, it is quite beautifully detailed, quite interesting and unique to look at, as right there in the center you have this green circle, which is where your character is located. Then on the left hand side you have the Stepping Stone River, you have the Droplet Islands, River's Embrace, Spool Islands, you have the Freya Trappets, Cocoon Hills, and then you have the Treaded River going all the way from the right hand top to the middle of the map. You also have Hunter's Headlands, and looking above that you had what seems to be Home Tree, and right by the Treaded River it seems to be some sort of base, some sort of maybe resistance base that you can go to. And then right on the outside of the map you have this grey fog like texture, which indicates unexplored areas in Frontiers of Pandora. Then you have different colored dots. You have these blue and purple-ish dots, and I'm guessing the blue parts are areas that you can fast travel to, whereas maybe the green dots indicate different quests, and perhaps the purple-ish dots indicate different gear that you can collect on the map. I simply don't know yet all of the smaller details on the map, so all of this is just me guessing, speculating, but we will likely know more about this pretty soon. One of the highlights of Pandora is the nightlife, and how everything becomes even more beautiful with the neon colors popping, and based on the gameplay, it certainly seems that the game will have a day-night cycle. Not only that, as seen in Game Riot's video, there is an option to pass the time, so my guess would be that you can wait to change the time of the day if certain missions require it. Perhaps certain areas will become accessible easier during certain times of the day, because weather will also impact the game, as seen in many of the previews. So what platform will Avatar Frontiers of Pandora be released? As this game is being developed for current gen only, it will be released on PC, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series S and X, as well as Amazon Luna. On PC though, you can only buy this game through the Ubisoft Store, as it will not be released on the Epic Store or Steam. Speaking of PC, recently the PC requirements for Frontiers of Pandora was released, and they are quite high. As you can see, regardless of which setting you want to play this on, minimum, recommended, enthusiast, or ultra, you're going to need 90 gigabytes of SSD storage. So you're going to need an SSD drive regardless. You're also going to need 16 gigabytes of dual channel RAM regardless of the setting, but as for the minimum setting, you're going to need a GTX 1070 Nvidia card or an AMD RX 5700, and going all the way up to ultra, you're then going to need an Nvidia RTX 4080 or an AMD RX 7900. So depending on which which setting you want to play as. If you want to go for 1080 with 60 FPS, you're going to need at least a 3060 Nvidia card, but of course you can play around with the settings. So for example, if you have a mix between ultra and recommended settings, you can probably play the game in ultra settings but at 1080p with 60 FPS. So I'm probably gonna aim for that setting, play at 1080p but aim for ultra resolution with 60 FPS instead of trying to go for 4K. But at the same time, I am going to play this game jumping between PC as well as PlayStation 5. When it comes to purchasing Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, there are multiple versions of the game. As with most Ubisoft games, there are 4 different versions available. Firstly, you get the standard edition, which has the base game, and regardless of which version you pre-order, you do get the Child of Two Worlds pre-order pack, which includes 1 cosmetic character set as well as 1 premium weapon skin. The second option would be the Gold edition, which includes the base game as well as the season pass. Now currently the season pass includes 2 story-based content packs, 1 bonus quest as well as the Resist bundle. These story packs are the Skybreaker as well as the Secret of the Spires, but more on that in a moment. The third option would be the Ultimate edition, which includes the base game, the season pass, the Ultimate pack as well as the digital art book. Now the only real difference here is that the Ultimate pack includes the Sorrento bundle, which includes skin and weapon bundles for your character as well as an outfit for your Ikran. Now the fourth and most expensive option is the Collector's edition, which includes of course the base game, the season pass, the Ultimate pack, digital art book, a 35cm Navi figurine, a 128-page physical art book, Resistance field notebook, an A2 format AMP blueprint, a premium steelbook, a set of 3 lithographs, premium certificate of authenticity, and of course the collector's packaging. Currently it is very hard to find the collector's edition as it is sold out in most places, and if you had to choose one of them, I would probably go for the Gold edition as it includes the season pass. But of course there's also an additional option where you can subscribe to Ubisoft Plus for $15 a month, where you'll be able to play the Ultimate edition of Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. It is also important to note that if you do play the game on PlayStation 5, then you do get the Ranahe Warrior pack for free, which will be available on Xbox and PC but at an additional cost. So what about this future content on Avatar Frontiers of Pandora? Well, currently with the season pass, as mentioned, there are 2 story expansions as well as 1 bonus quest. That bonus quest is called Familiar Echoes, where they state, quote, infiltrate a highly secure RDA military base and hack their classified data to sabotage them from the inside, end quote. The first story expansion is called the Skybreaker, and the description reads, quote, a mysterious shadow looms in the sky, threatening the Navi clans below, who are celebrating at their great festival of games. Face the RDA and protect the unity of the clans, coming summer 2024, end quote. And as for the second story DLC, which is titled Secrets of the Spires, it states, quote, engage in epic aerial combat on your Banshee to uncover the secrets of this new canyon region and restore the peace before it's too late, coming fall 2024, end quote. Not much else is known about this. We don't have any roadmap trailer or anything else. We simply have some sort of blog post on the Ubisoft website talking about future content, talking briefly about these 2 expansions and the bonus quest, but likely shortly before the release of the game, they will do some sort of post-launch trailer. Ubisoft usually does this with all of their games. They did it with the Division franchise, they did it with most of the Assassin's Creed games, so I kind of expect them to do the same with Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. So I do see them expand on this and I'm excited about it, so I will do a deep dive once that trailer releases. Now speaking of release, when is the actual release date of Avatar Frontiers of Pandora? It is interesting to think that Frontiers of Pandora was originally announced back in March of 2017 with an original release date planned for December of 2022. Without a doubt, they had plans to release this game alongside the release of Avatar The Way of Water, and given that the release date as of today is 7th December 2023, that would make it that the game has been in development for around 7 years, which is a long time. I don't think that this game will be delayed any further, but I do have some concerning thoughts based on the preview events. One of my big concerns based on all of the preview footage that I've seen is that this game simply does not seem polished. It seems as if this game is not really finished yet, and that is strange considering the game was delayed a whole year. Granted, it was stated on Twitter that the build people played at the preview event was a couple of months old, so I'm sure a lot of it has been fixed. But when you look at smaller things like lip syncing, and in particular when the rope is going around the mouth of the Ikran, the animations just seems unfinished. Aside from that, I saw quite a few repeated animations. For example, when the character was killing an RDA amp suit, the way the player pulled out the soul soldier from the amp suit, it seemed to be the same animation over and over with no real variation. And also with there being no stealth takedown animations, it just kind of looked odd when the player walks up behind an RDA soldier and just basically punches them, making them fly across the map. And I've even seen some players do like a running slide against RDA soldiers, knocking them off certain platforms. Also, another concern is that the AI doesn't really seem that difficult at all. Sure, you can bump up the difficulty of the game, which will probably cause the enemy to do more damage, but the AI overall doesn't really seem that difficult or smart at all. I've seen soldiers, RDA soldiers, just stand there and do nothing, and although you can take a lot of damage really easy while being on your Ikran, the enemy aircraft just stand there, float, or not stand, they float there in the air in one position, making them an easy target while the player just flew around in circles around the enemy, taking them out one by one. It didn't really seem like much of a challenge at all. There has also been talks that this game has a very linear story and only one ending, which I can understand because, I mean, with the game being canon, they don't want multiple endings because they want to stick to a specific story that they want to tell. But from what I heard, when the game finishes, there will just be fortresses at the end of the game, or more difficult fortresses that you can take out, and with no new game plus currently planned, it doesn't seem like there's much replay value once you finish the game, aside from wanting to experience this world again on a brand new save file. And of course we have the future DLC, but I do hope that some of these smaller things will be tweeted out when the game releases in basically less than a month. As for my closing thoughts, overall the game does look beautiful. It is one of the statements that basically everybody has said from all of the previews, that regardless of all of the technical issues the game has, the game looks stunning and sounds incredible, as the sound team did an amazing job at capturing the feel or the sound of Pandora, and that is probably one of the things that I'm most excited for when playing Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. Of course, all of these smaller things like character customization, changing different outfits, customizing your Ikran, and just exploring the world is what I'm excited about. I'm also interested to see where the story goes. How does it tie into the overall universe of Avatar? Like I said, I know we won't see Jake or Neytiri or Loak or any of those characters appear in Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, but they will be mentioning some of the characters in the story, some of the characters from the movies in the story of the game, and I'm wondering that if we're gonna see some characters in the game eventually appear in later movies. So what I mean by that is maybe one of the characters will be in the game and then maybe will appear as a side character in Avatar 3 or Avatar 4, which I think will be a smart choice if they do something like that. So if you essentially want to know more backstory about the side character in the movie, then you have to play the game to see like their quote-unquote origin story. I don't really think they'll go that far, but I do hope we get some traces of it, and I do hope that, for example, since we'll hear some parts of the movies mentioned in the game, I do hope that in the movies we'll hear some mention of the Western Frontier, or what happened at the Western Frontier. You know, some sprinkles thrown in here and there. But overall, I am very, very excited to play Frontiers of Pandora, obviously, and with it being essentially a month away from release, I'm expecting we'll see a ton of information in terms of developer interviews, trailers based on post-launch content. We'll of course get the launch trailer for Frontiers of Pandora, and who knows, maybe we'll get another preview event, maybe like a final preview event where people will get a more up-to-date hands-on with game. But overall, I do have some concerns, but I do have a lot of hope for this game, and I am excited to play it finally when the game releases on December 7th, 2023. But what are your thoughts about Avatar Frontiers of Pandora? Are you excited about the game? What are your concerns? Let me know in the comments below, and for more Avatar content, have a look at the rest of my channel. Until next time, have a fantastic day and stay safe.